Und was ist mit J.Lo?
Die kenne ich nicht.
Ups.
What if one of the most legendary vocalists in pop music history was quietly pushed out of the spotlight, not because her talent faded, but because the industry simply made room for someone else?
All the attention Jennifer Lopez gets, does that bother? Is there rivalries, by the way, in this business?
Carey isn't just a singer, she's a once-in-a-generation voice, a songwriter, a producer, an architect of modern pop. And yet, at the peak of her career, something shifted, subtly, gradually. Her dominance on the charts began to wane. Media portrayals grew more chaotic, and new names, Jennifer Lopez, Beyoncé, began to rise, not just as stars, but as the new icons. Was it just timing, or was it strategy? Let's rewind to a moment that's often overlooked but speaks volumes, a melody. Mariah had secured it. She had plans for it. But before she could release it, before her audience could hear what she had been working on, that exact melody ended up on Jennifer Lopez's album. For the average fan, that might seem like a coincidence. But in the world of music production, rights, and NDAs, such coincidences rarely happen by accident. For Mariah, it wasn't just frustrating. It was a red flag, a signal that someone within her own team or label had handed over her work, not to a random competitor, but to J.Lo, a rising star being heavily marketed as the next big thing. It was more than a song. It was a power move, and it didn't stop there. As J.Lo's career skyrocketed, Mariah's seemed to stall. Headlines began to focus less on her music and more on her behavior. She was painted as a diva, difficult, unstable, over the top. The narrative became less about her contributions and more about her image. Meanwhile, J.Lo was being celebrated for her crossover success, her acting, her dancing, her fresh energy. But here's the uncomfortable part. Was J.Lo's rise dependent on Mariah's fall? Some insiders believe the answer is yes. In a fiercely competitive industry, space at the top is limited. Record labels know this, PR teams know this. When a label sees a newer artist with potential and an older artist whose public image is becoming harder to manage, they start making choices. Where to spend money, who gets radio priority, who gets the best producers. And those decisions, they can make or break a career. But J.Lo isn't the only figure in this story. Enter Beyoncé. Beyoncé's rise was meteoric. From Destiny's Child to her solo career, she's been on an upward trajectory for over 2 decades. And rightfully so, her talent is undeniable. Her work ethic is unmatched. But talent alone doesn't explain everything. Especially not in an industry that thrives on relationships and access. Her songwriting achievements? Forgotten by most casual fans. Instead, the spotlight was elsewhere. And you have to wonder, did Beyoncé's rise also benefit from the space left behind by Mariah's media downfall? Now let's talk about media framing, because this is where the battle is won or lost. Mariah Carey was often portrayed as dramatic, high maintenance, and unpredictable. Rarely did headlines focus on the fact that she wrote 18 of her 19 #1 singles, or that she changed the sound of pop and R&B for an entire generation. Beyoncé, on the other hand, was given the treatment usually reserved for legends. Every album was called a cultural moment, every move calculated and praised. And again, let's be clear, Beyoncé deserves credit. But the difference in treatment is glaring. Beyoncé's partnership with Jay-Z, one of the most powerful figures in modern music, gave her an advantage that few others had. Together, they became a business empire. They had control, not just over music, but over narratives, over fashion, over branding, over cultural capital. And here's where it gets uncomfortable again. While Beyoncé was ascending, releasing innovative albums, headlining the Super Bowl, redefining what it meant to be an artist in the 21st century, Mariah was being boxed into a narrow identity. She became the Christmas girl, the diva meme, the glittery, unstable pop star from the early 2000s. Her artistic legacy overshadowed. Mariah, for example, was mocked for her infamous "I don't know her" comment about J.Lo, something that to this day is quoted and taken out of context. But what many don't realize is that behind that comment may have been a deeper story, a sense of betrayal, of being replaced, of watching your artistry handed off to someone else. The industry has always had a habit of recycling female stars. One rises, another fades. Rarely are multiple women allowed to share the same tier of success simultaneously. It's a pattern, and it raises the question, is this competition real, or is it manufactured by the powers behind the scenes? When you look closely, There's very little direct conflict between Mariah, Beyoncé, and J.Lo. No diss tracks, no interviews filled with shade, just tension, an underlying discomfort, a noticeable lack of collaboration. It's a Cold War, not a battle, and yet, all three women are deeply intertwined, whether they like it or not. Their careers overlap in crucial ways, their fan bases cross over. Their roles in shaping pop music and cultural identity are undeniable, but only two of them were allowed to remain at the forefront. Only two were embraced by the new generation. Mariah, on the other hand, became a legacy act, celebrated once a year, revered, but only in a nostalgic sense, rarely discussed in the present tense. And here's the twist. The story's not over, because Mariah's influence hasn't disappeared. New artists still reference her. Vocalists still cite her as the standard. Every December, she dominates the charts. And now, with the rise of TikTok and Gen Z discovering her music all over again, there's a sense that her reputation might be undergoing a quiet revival. Meanwhile, conversations are beginning. Fans are starting to question how fame is constructed, how the industry props up one star while sidelining another, how narratives are shaped, not by fans or talent, but by those behind closed doors. So the real question is, what do you believe? Was Mariah Carey unfairly pushed aside to make room for new icons? Did Beyoncé and J.Lo knowingly benefit from that transition? Or is this just the inevitable cycle of celebrity, where yesterday's stars make way for tomorrow's legends?